faktisk ligner på Stoltenberg.
Du mener jeg ligner på Stoltenberg?
I'm taking it down hard right, yeah?
Yes, hard right, please, yeah.
Okay.
Don't cross your hands.
Take cross your hands.
What?
Well, sausage rolls.
Well,
Not sausage rolls, sorry. Hot cross buns, £2.
Legene tjener så mye og sånn, så men vi gjør...
Right, so how do you drive this?
how do you drive this?
Denne kjøringen har jeg vært litt fornøyd med.
Dream come true.
Jens Stoltenberg, Prime Minister of Norway, alongside some of our leading politicians. So who looked the most natural getting out and about meeting the voters? And what are the pitfalls when it comes to trying to seem real, so to speak?
David Skelton set up an organisation looking at how political parties broaden their appeal. Morning, David. MP Tim Loughton spent 8 days and nights on an inner-city estate for a Channel 4 documentary. Morning, both. Thanks very much for joining us. Tim Loughton, let's just talk about you. So you went to go and spend time on this estate. I know you had a sort of documentary crew with you. So kind of how real was it and what did you learn?
Well, I think some of the things I learnt in Birmingham when I was living in a tower block was how to write a rap song and how to set fire to a microwave whilst trying to cook for some kids I was looking after. But it was an interesting experience. Trouble is, doing a documentary like that, you had a film crew constantly with you from about 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight, so people's reactions were slightly different. I think what the Prime Minister in Norway has done is with a sort of go undercover with the hidden cameras, perhaps rather different. But I think in principle it's a good idea, and anything that gets politicians out on the street more, being seen as ordinary people able to do ordinary things along with everybody else, it's got to be a good thing for politics.
David Skelton, should our politicians be trying the Stoltenberg tactic themselves?
I think if politicians over here were to drive taxis for a few hours, it would be seen as a gimmick, and probably rightly so. Politicians have to do more than just get in a taxi for 8 hours. They have to be trying to re-engage all of the time. There's a sense that the Westminster bubble is slightly insulated from the rest of ordinary life, and policy change did some polling last year where more than 80% of people said politicians didn't understand the real world at all. So I think it's important that politicians reach out to voters, try to show they understand voters' concerns.
Does going into a bakery to buy a pasty or asking somebody how to use a piece of motorway machinery while you're still wearing a suit and tie, is that keeping it real?
I think it's important to go beyond the photo op and go beyond the gimmick and to really listen to what voters are saying and show you're being responsive to it. If you look at some of the most successful campaigning MPs, Rob Halfon with Fuel Duty, Stella Creasy with loan sharks, they used innovative ways of listening to voters and then used their campaigns to show they were responding to those concerns. There needs to be more of that, and more of politicians using thoughtful new ways of getting in touch with voters, because political party membership has been going down for 50 years. So politicians need to go to the voters, and the voters aren't going to go to the political parties.
Right.
OK, Tim Loughton, what about your constituents? I mean, you know, I know obviously all MPs have surgeries. Is that how you connect with voters best? How does it work for you? And, you know, would you drive a taxi around your local town?
Well, I would. In fact, the leader of my local council in Ada is a taxi driver, so he has the man in the back of the taxi routine the whole time. I think David is right. What's happened in Norway, it is just a gimmick that might be connected with the fact there's an election coming up in a few weeks' time there, and MPs need to be doing this day in, day out. And actually an awful lot of good MPs do this. I mean, I hold surges, most MPs do. I also hold street surges, so most Saturday mornings I will be in a shopping centre on a street corner with a few councillors where anybody can come up and speak to me, have a go at me, raise local issues, have a go on national issues. I have to say one of the most fascinating and useful things I did when I was the Children's Minister, I used to take a week out, usually in recess every September, to go and be a social worker, for example, without any TV cameras, without all the razzmatazz of that, just go around shadowing social workers, doing difficult jobs, going into ordinary people's homes and finding out exactly the sort of problems that those people had to deal with. We go out with ambulance crews. We go out regularly with the police in our constituencies. I have a website called Tell Tim, when anybody can have a go at me over the internet, write to me, Most MPs are actually very accessible. We have a terrible image still, although when you ask people what they think about their local MP, we usually feature rather better than when you ask them what they think about politicians generally, and we're all, a bunch of crooks on the bankers and estate agents and people like that.
David, the benefit, though, surely of the taxi driving exercise was that the passengers were telling the Prime Minister, when they weren't aware of who he was, exactly what they thought. So he had that one-to-one contact of people being really honest. If they'd known he was Prime Minister in the first place, they might not have expressed their opinion in the same way.
I think most people wouldn't have trouble being honest to most politicians. And politicians really have to go to where people are gathering. And lots of people gather in the pub, in sports clubs and community gatherings. Politicians have to go there and listen.
Have politicians in this country become too high and mighty in that respect, then?
I wouldn't have said that, but politicians, because of this sense of disengagement, just need to go further and need to do more to re-engage.
And you've both made the point, Tim Loughton made the point that, people feel quite strongly about their individual MP, don't they?
Yeah.
And maybe that if you can get access, or at least attempt to get access to them. It is as a group, though, isn't it, that they don't seem, in some ways, to break through. So how do they change that kind of perception, then, do you think?
I think that's often going to be done at the local level as well. As Tim pointed out, local view of politicians can often be quite strong. But they need to show at the local level how they're making a difference. And also use social media as well, not just to parrot the party line, but to really engage with voters.
David, thanks very much. David Skelton, Tim Loughton, no, thanks to you as well. And just very briefly, if you've had the invitation, when will we see you behind the wheel of a taxi in your Shoreham constituency?
Well, I've tweeted, I was coming on this programme this morning, and somebody's already tweeted back, well, you may as well do it permanently rather than be an MP, so you can't win. So I'm open to offers. I'll be out of my constituency doing street surgery on Saturday morning, as usual, where anybody can come and have a go at me and tell me where I can take my taxi.
Tim, thanks very much.
If anybody needs a lift to the station, you know where to go.